Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show. Discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are. Hosted by Desiree Duffy.
Here comes the Books That Make You show. And I'm your host, Desiree Duffy. Today we're talking about books that make you stand up for what's right, even if no one stands with you. Oh, don't you love it when fiction books have these powerful themes, just messages that resonate with us? They help inspire, empower us. I know that I sure do. Gearheart is such a book. It's a retro-futuristic espionage trilogy where heroes are chased by portal-projecting enemies, thwarted by secret passages, and they're swayed by romance and stunned by chilling discoveries. It's kind of like Batman meets the Industrial Revolution, and readers are really never, ever going to forget this book. Now, we are joined by the author of Gearheart. Her name is Michelle R. Young. She is many things. She's a professional artist and a writer, a social media specialist. And when she isn't creating new stories, she can be found painting, hanging out with friends, or simply just marveling at nature. She is Texas born and bred, and she's grown up adapting around her two learning disabilities, dysgraphia and ADHD, so that she could become a better storyteller. And well, Michelle, I must say, I think you nailed it. I think you did that with Gearheart. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
You bet.
So excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Like, I just unpacked a whole lot of information because we've got this book and we've got these marvelous characters and powerful themes. So let's start with that big theme, that message. Why is it? Why do you think that it's important for people to stand up for what's right, even if nobody stands with you?
If nobody did that, there wouldn't be any change in the world. And things probably would still be as they were thousands and thousands of years ago, because no one would see it as a way to progress. And seeing how things were then, it's like we are still chaotic now, but I feel like we have so much more compassion now than we did back then, which is very, very important. And I try to portray that in the book because compassion can sometimes be seen as weakness, even though it's probably one of the bravest things you can give to somebody is compassion and kindness.
Oh, absolutely. You nailed a lot of feels right there. Right? I got you, sister. And you're so optimistic because some people might say, oh my gosh, look at the world. You know, people are fighting. There's wars going on, but you choose to see the brighter side of things, right?
How else are you going to see change happen?
Absolutely. So why was it important for you to have this theme resonate within Gearheart?
Well, it kind of just came to me where it originally came to me in a dream, and once it developed more and more into like daydreams and always wanting to think about it or dream about it and finally writing it down, it really developed into these characters are doing something nobody else will, and they are firm believers in it. They will die for what they believe because they know it's actually the right cause. So it became really important to the story, and it became more and more the moral of it. And I just fell in love with it. So I tried to spread that around as much as I can in the book.
That's excellent. So a lot of this came to you in a dream? That's interesting.
Yes. I was in high school whenever it happened. I didn't know if you hear that. I was in high school when that happened, and I was 18 whenever I first had it. But I kept redreaming it for a full year before I finally wrote it down.
Oh, fascinating. Where do you feel this came from? I mean, I know we have Batman as a comp, and, you know, it seems like there's some steampunk in there, maybe some immortal engines. Were you reading or watching movies along those lines, or where do you think that resonated from?
So the weirdest thing, the Denny's or the slaves in this world, they look a lot like Neopets. Yes,
yeah. I love those. Game. Those are great. Yeah.
I used to play that game all the time when I was a kid, and I guess it's just like, oh my god, my mind went to go back to my childhood for some reason and incorporate that in the Victorian era for some reason. And my Lori and I were the main characters of the dream. My best friend and me, and then all of a sudden they just kind of took their own characteristics more and more, and it's just like, okay, that's something I would never do, but I love what's going on here. And eventually, just the Myrick Manor where they are living at, it developed so much, all these vast rooms that I remember, and the doors that would change into different places every time. It was ridiculous. But the dream was so vivid and so enticing. I never wanted to leave. And of course, right whenever I was getting to a really good part and they were about to go on their mission and fight the bad guys, my mom wakes me up.
Of course.
And I'm just like, Mom, please, 5 more minutes. Let me finish this dream.
Well, okay, there's a lot. First of all, I am going to ask you to give us the setup. And it's interesting that you and your friend Lori are the characters. But first, I just want to say, Michelle, do you know how many writers I talked to who have something similar? Either it comes to them in a dream. A lot of authors will say that they hear the conversations, they hear their main characters talking to them as if they were a separate person. So I think you're in good creative company when you have your stories come to you that way.
Yeah. It can be at the most random times. I could be stressed out and all of a sudden the perfect kind of dialogue comes in. It's like, I must write something down. I don't care what's going on. I have to write this down now. I was driving one time. I pulled over and wrote for like an entire hour, and it was so hot. It was the middle of summer.
And you just had to get it down as fast as you could, right?
I had to. I was barely even paying attention to the heat. And I go to that part of the story that I love so much, and I read it over and over again. I cannot wait to make that real.
Oh, fun. Okay, so let's talk about the characters a little bit, because in the book we have Aspen and Lori Wolf. So I'm kind of guessing Lori is your friend and you're Aspen. Is that how that works?
Well, in the dream, I had the point of view of Aspen, but Aspen is very different from me in a way. She is an inventor. A closet inventor. She is very adept in fighting, and she is also an introvert. She loves to wait in the shadows, hear all the information that she can use later for her mission and for the survival of the Demis. But she's also very compassionate, and she's a very good big sister. Lori is the little sister, and she's very bubbly, very flirty, and she loves fun, but she's also a great fighter, and she will always support her sister no matter what.
I love stories about sisters. I just got to say that's such a great dynamic, and it feels like you've really fleshed out those characters. Tell us a little bit about the setting. Maybe we should step back and you give us an idea of what this world is, because we're steampunk, we're in an alternate timeline, we're all over the place. Can you kind of set the stage for us?
So the stage is set where 40 years ago in 1944, there was a huge plague that wiped the nation of the working class, and it hit every other class as well. It was just mainly the working class who were completely destroyed. And because of that, they didn't have anyone working the hard labor jobs that really support the entire economy. So they actually have found a way to go through a rift and into a different dimension using a kind of like a tesseract.
Okay.
And because of that, they are able to go to this one world where it has all the Demis is what they named them. There are multiple different colors. Some of them look like otters or bears, even some of them look like big birds. Let's see here. Others can look like even monkeys, but they're like red furred, purple, or something like that. And some of them have bat wings and all kind of things. I digress. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm excited.
That's
Sorry.
the fun part of it, right? Where you have all of this creative energy and you can have all these different characters. And it really sounds like a fantasy world meets a video game meets, lots of other things. So please continue.
In a way, yeah. But once the humans saw them, it's like, this is free labor. This is exactly what we've been needing. So skip about 40 more years. And this is now when Aspen and Laurie are moving to a place called Caerleon in England. And it's a port town where the slave trade began. And it's a perfect place for them to try and free them with their guardian, Keegan Myrack, who is the town playboy. But he actually, it turns out he has a heart of gold.
Oh, we love it when our playboys have hearts of gold, don't we?
Me too. It's like they're just hiding it behind a facade and everything.
Yes. Yes.
But they eventually convince him to help them. And after training, they go on all their adventures and they see and find out some things they may not have, they probably shouldn't have found out about the town, about their past, and their just everything. And it really shakes them up, but it also proves how much they want to hold together and how far they're willing to go for the freedom of the slaves. And also, it really dives into the characteristics of the slaves. It even goes a little bit into their culture, a tiny bit. More on that is going to be developed in the second book, which is in editing right now. I'm very excited.
Oh, congratulations.
But through all of this, you see different machines, like Gearheart itself is actually the name of the machine, a tesseract, which Aspen and her father made, but she had to rebuild after it was destroyed. And it is secret. It is super hush-hush because it is illegal to make such a thing due to a terrible explosion that killed many people before, which is why the slave trade ended. But slaves are still being used 40 years later.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So I got to ask you, how much of real history inspired you? Were you researching how the real slave trade and how people and countries, I mean, even today, there's stuff going on, isn't there? Did you?
Big time. Interesting enough, the slave trade that is going on today is in Africa, and it's not between, it's only between people in Africa, basically. That's it. Not Asian and black, Asian and white, no, it's black and black. That's where the slave trade is happening. That's where it's staying put right now. It's contained there, which is still sad because slavery is still a thing right now. But back then, it was actually abolished in England in 1833. So I had to switch up the timeline a little bit because everything that I saw in my dream was closer to the time of 1886, which is when this was held. So I have warped a bit of history to fit the book. But for the most part, like Queen Victoria is still the queen. Some of the inventions back then, I was going to put plexiglass in the story, but so many people said it wasn't invented yet. You can't use it. It's like, fine. The glass is dead. It's like,
well,
yeah.
You have some creative liberties if you're dealing with an alternate timeline, because things can happen. I get it. Then there's the purists that are like, well, it needs to be more plausible, I guess is the point.
Yeah, but it's like, I just was like, you know what? It's fine. Glass is fine. I'll just use that anyway because it wasn't that big of a deal. I was really strict on cars because the first car ever was made in 1886, and the one I gave our characters was like way more advanced. But I did not care. So
there you go. There you go. Well, you have this steampunk flair to it too.
Exactly.
And the thing with steampunk is that steampunk stuff never existed. It is in some kind of alternate whatever. It has to be. So, I mean, when you start getting steampunky, that's the whole idea is you have this Victorian era, but then you have gears and gadgets and things that somehow are a more advanced technology, right?
Mm-hmm. And because of the plague, a lot of people have, like lost appendages. Some of them lose their ears, and you can identify them whether they have a lost appendage or not by their bionic parts. So there are some people with like a complete forearm that's gone, but their wrist is extendable. So this man walks by and he tips his hat off and it extends out and then backs back down to his head when he walks off. Fun. Stuff like that. And I am making things even more advanced in the next book. It's very exciting to see what we're going to do.
No, I just got to say, this is exciting to be talking to somebody who you were 18 years old. You were in high school when this first came. You are, and you are right now, a very young author, a very young writer. So props and kudos for doing that. How does it feel to be publishing books? There's some people that wait 30 years before they publish their book. They're, in their 50s or 60s or even 70s.
It feels absolutely wonderful and I love it. Whenever I got the book in the mail and I held it, I just wanted to jump up and down. It's like, oh my God, this is actually real. But it was weird. Once I hit published, it's like, oh, I'm so excited. This is great. But I was on vacation at the time with friends, so I wasn't able to fully celebrate. Whenever I got home and like 3 days later, this entire wave of bliss kind of just fell over me. And for the entire day, I was just like starry-eyed looking out the window. It's like, oh my God, I'm an author now. It was weird, but I loved it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really does feel great. And there's so many this story, and then there's so many other ideas that I have for other books, even children's books, that I'm hoping to publish soon too. But there's just so many things I want to do. So I'm excited that I can now say that I am a published author, and it'll just be a bit more smooth sailing from here.
Yep. It starts getting a little easier every time. So you've already teased us and told us about book 2 and then book 3, right? This is a trilogy. You have this all planned out, correct?
Yep, that is correct. The second book, I am proud to say, is called Soul Cogs. So kind of like Gearheart. I'm trying to keep it within like mechanical and then body. And then I want to save the third name of the book so no one possibly steals it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Soul Cogs will be coming out soon.
Great. And so you have aspirations to write other things too. You mentioned children's books. What else do you feel is on the horizon for you?
Well, I've already illustrated a book for a friend of mine, a co-author of mine, and we'll be publishing that closer to the fall. So I'm going to say maybe November. And my illustrations are in there. So we're going in halvesies, and I'm very excited to see that in print too, because that will be my first illustrated novel.
Ooh, nice. Now that's true. You are an artist as well. So how does it feel incorporating your art into your storytelling?
I really love it. And I've thought about putting pictures of like the characters and the demis in this book, or even just a map. I just haven't done it yet. But maybe for like future novels, I will. And for all my future books, I really want to paint the covers of them as well.
So for this book, for Gearheart, I know you have a copy of the cover that's so much better. I just wrote the words. So tell us about the cover for Gearheart. Did you do that? Did you have an artist? How did the cover come to be?
So I actually used 100 covers, and I love them. They're great. They can be a little bit delayed sometimes because they have to make sure it's all checked through with a bunch of people. But for the most part, they did an awesome job, which obviously I think the book looks great. And they're super great to work with. They got a lot of different ideas that they can even help with, or suggestions. And anything, you go onto their site and you give them all the details you want, even to the smallest minute amount, and you can easily work with them. I was really worried about the words because I said, can you make the words look like they're made of gears or something like that? And they put it in there. Like, I don't know if you can tell. It's super cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, I was so enamored whenever I finally saw those words. I was like, oh my God, that is amazing. So.
Oh, that's great. It's such a great feeling when you see your vision and an artist or somebody else kind of brings it to life. That is truly amazing. So tell me, Michelle, what did you discover about yourself on your writing journey so far?
Well, because I do have 2 learning disabilities, it was like a huge stepping stone for me, because there was a point whenever the thought came into my head as a joke. I was like 16 or something, and I thought, oh, just watch, I'm going to become a writer or something like that, or I'm going to do some kind of job with writing. And I laughed at myself. And now I'm laughing at myself again for thinking that that would never be possible, because I did it. It's just like, I don't know how this happened, but it did. But yeah, it took a lot of encouragement for myself. It was a big thing for me to start believing that I can do something like this, because I was just so passionate about it. My passion was able to overcome my fear of not being able to do it, because that was something I have struggled with a lot in the past, especially in high school, because dysgraphia makes you like very, very slow whenever you're writing. And it's like a motor issue where the words in your head and your arm they're not cooperating. It's so much slower than how fast you're actually thinking of everything. So just like, I've been able to develop a lot with that. I'm able to write so much faster and clearer, I feel like, than I ever have, which is awesome because of this book and all the books that I've been making so far. So yeah, if you ever doubt yourself, do it anyway. That's what I say.
Oh, and that leads me to my next question. So what advice or words of wisdom would you have for somebody, maybe somebody similar to you, maybe somebody who's younger, has a learning disability, might be wondering what their path is? What would you tell them about writing?
I would say kind of the same thing I just said. I know it's scary. I know you can feel a little down or a little strange because you have this disability, but it's only a disability if you let it be one. You can still learn from it. You can still grow because of it. And I know I have. So don't ever doubt what you think you can't do, because it turns out you probably can. It may take you a little bit longer, but you can still probably do it. Let's be honest.
Great advice. Love that. Okay, Michelle. So tell me, who are you currently reading? Who's inspiring you? Who is it that kind of gives you a little bit of juice when you're writing?
Well, for this book, I was actually really inspired by the Sherlock Holmes series. And I absolutely loved it because it was at the perfect time in Victorian era. It was actually the same exact time that I was making my book, that they were portraying Sherlock Holmes. So I was able to learn so much about what culture was like, how people acted around each other, even things like the newspaper, the names they used, it was in there. And also how to lead people into just deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole with so many different things and mystery and that kind of stuff. So it helped me out a lot with that.
Oh, I love that.
Also, the manner of speech. They're so eloquent. It's amazing. But yeah, it was really great. I love those stories and I still read them. Other than that, actually the Night Circus, and I am currently finishing that, but I'm still enthralled by that one and the book Vespertine.
Okay.
In the book Vespertine, the author, it's like painting a picture with poetry. It's absolutely gorgeous how she describes everything. The author, it's amazing. Anyone also, it is in very close to the Victorian area that I was, but it's a little farther off. Mm-hmm. But still, it was wonderfully done, and I absolutely loved it. Very singular book, very cute, very wonderful read.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, it is just so important as writers that we are not just writing, but we're reading too, constantly finding new and exciting, and even going back to the classics, going back to the original, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes, because there's something there, right? When a story, characters, a writer has that staying power. Think of how many times Sherlock Holmes has been adapted and changed and modernized and twisted, but it comes back down to great storytelling is great storytelling is great storytelling. And that's why the classics are classics.
Mm-hmm. I actually really love the movie with Robert Downey Jr. in it for Sherlock Holmes. I loved watching that too, because you can see it more than just read it. It's really cool to see how he would be able to figure things out, or also how people dressed and fought as well. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love it. Okay, Michelle, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about you, your website. Tell us where we can find you on social media. And of course, tell us where we can go to find Gearheart.
I will start with Gearheart. Thank you. So you can find Gearheart, my book, on Amazon and Kindle and for paperback. And it is actually going to be coming out very soon in an audiobook as well. So it's on Amazon. It's on barnesandnobles.com, Apple Books, and I believe Kobo as well. And Ingram Sparks has it. So it should be available to go to libraries very soon as well.
Oh, absolutely. So here's a little hint for everybody listening. If you would love to get Gearheart from your local library, go to your local library and say, order this. And if they say, oh, where do we go to order it? Say Ingram, because when you're on Ingram, you're available for distribution anywhere and everywhere.
Which is awesome.
Yes, yes. All right, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have you come back later on as more Gearheart books come out, and maybe later on too when we have some children's books come out from you, okay?
You got it. Oh, and one last thing. My website is mypureart.com, so check me out there.
Oh, love it, love it. And we can see your art as well, can't we?
Yes.
Excellent. Michelle R. Young, thank you so much for joining us today on the Books That Make You show.
Desiree Duffy, thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. Go ahead, hold up that beautiful book cover so we can all see it. And thank you, everybody, for being with us here today on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram, and of course on YouTube. Don't forget to ring the bell and subscribe so that you can always stay up to date on other Books That Make You shows with great authors like Michelle R. Young. Until next time, all of my book buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The executive producer for Books That Make You is Desiree Duffy. Produced and sound mastered by Phil Giangrande. Engineering by Dave Nabox. Social media and promotion by Bree Sweeter. For more, visit booksthatmakeyou.com.